Hey everyone, Nate here. Just a quick reminder, we've got some great bonus content that's come out in the last month or so. We had one-on-one with Francis and Brian Quimby from Street Fight Radio. We've got a great episode this week about Rudy Giuliani with some legal expertise provided by Carrie Shockey, talking about why Rudy is so insane. So if you're interested in that, sign up on the Patreon. There's a link in the show notes. Thanks, and hope you enjoy the episode.
Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. He ain't gonna jump no more. Zoom.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Die. It's Francis, it's Nate, and it is fucking December. Everything is cold. Beforehand, Nate and I were talking about the mental dealings as a Midwesterner you make to yourself when you step outside and you're like, well, it's cold, but it's not windy. It's heat.
Yeah.
It's hot. It's hot, but it's a dry heat, you know.
I don't think it's ever a dry heat in the Midwest. I mean, I can remember August in Indiana some years where like it didn't rain for a couple of weeks and like everyone's lawns died and stuff. But even that didn't really feel like a dry, like there's still trees with leaves on them and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's never a real dry heat.
Every city in the Midwest is like within it's within like 20 miles of a river somewhere, so it is it's always humid, especially when it's really hot. Like, you know, St. Louis obviously right next to the Mississippi River. But, you know, what you don't really have a town in the Midwest if you're not near a river or a railhead of some kind. Like those are the two reasons why towns exist between the mountain ranges.
Or near a canal. Of course, those ones are now like completely fucked, but yeah, there's also those towns.
Yeah, so you know, it's cold. It's cold as balls all over, which is fine. You know, I mean, it's December. It's fine. We're already depressed. Why not throw some seasonal affective depression on top of it? Just, you know, drink your booze and smoke your weed and do what you can to power through. I fucking hate winter. I don't know about. I know some people find it to be a magical fucking time, but I've learned that I have to like lean really hard on Christmas to like project me through January and February.
Well, something that I remember in Germany as a kid was doing this thing where they make what's called like an Adventskrans, so like a Advent crown. And it's basically like you make 4 candles on like a display that you would put in your like living room. And sometimes they have candle holders, but like you start on the Sunday. The Advent starts like the last Sunday in November, I think. And you go through the full cycle of Advent, and basically like, you know, it ends right on Christmas, I think. That's the way it works, but I can't remember. And maybe Catholics might know more about this than I do. But it was like every night you're sort of the standard family tradition kind of thing is that like, you know, the family is together and you light the Adventskrans, and then you like every Sunday you light the next candle and stuff, and it like builds up towards Christmas and stuff. And I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, you know, it makes sense why you'd want to have your family together and do this ritual, because this is the period of time in Northern Europe when it's the fucking darkest, the absolute darkest. Like here in London from last Friday, so like the last week of November till 28 December, the sun is going to set before 4 p.m. every day. And it actually starts getting better. Like it's still getting worse right now in the sense of like the sun is rising later, but it's sort of like at its worst point right around now, or getting there as far as like early sunset. Yeah,
December 21st is the solstice.
The solstice,
so they start getting longer.
They start getting longer after that. But it's like it absolutely makes sense to me, like why you would have all of these traditions around. Like let's like make sure everybody's together and we like drink hot beverages and light candles and stuff, so y'all don't just fucking kill each other or kill yourselves because it's so dark. I had forgotten what that was like, because in Germany it's bad. It's worse. If I remember correctly, it's worse than pretty much anywhere in America besides like maybe really far north, like Maine towards the Canadian border, or obviously in Alaska. But here it's way worse than what I remember in Germany. Like in Germany in the summertime, the sun would set after 9 in the summertime, but like not like after 10. Whereas here it's like, I think it's in the middle of June, it's like around 10:30, which I mean, fucking rules, don't get me wrong. But then the counterpoint to that is this current period we're in where you are sapped of your will to live. So yeah, you know, I don't have important rituals besides podcasting.
I saw you post on Instagram, like you went for a run, you took this beautiful picture of a sunset, and you wrote, and I saw your wife, you know, kind of posted about it too. Just like, oh, it sucks sometimes, but really is very beautiful. And I just wanted to reply with cope on both of your.
Look, man, it's pretty here. It absolutely is, but in like its own kind of way. In the
London's
sense that
London is a very good looking city.
It is. It's got a certain kind of charm to it, but also everything is kind of run down in a way, and so like you kind of start to appreciate it. And it's only when you're removed from it then you start to think like, oh wow, this. Well, I just become accustomed to everywhere is 2 or 3 story buildings with like a weird sort of tumor like appendage built on the front of it, which is a shop. Everything basically looks like it's falling the fuck apart. Every single brick in this city needs to be sandblasted and cleaned to remove like centuries of smog. It's just, but it's got a certain charm to it, 100%. Like it really does. And yeah, like the sunsets are beautiful. That park that's near us is really nice because there's this big hill in the middle of it, and you can walk up there. And yeah, I went for a run at like 3:30, 3:25, and I was done and was kind of walking out like to cool down and just saw the sunset. And I was like, it is very, very nice. I do feel really lucky to live here, but I do also feel like long term, I'm just gonna go insane if I stay here forever. Like, gotta go someplace that has a real summer and not this dark of winter. And Cynthia was joking too that she was like, when she was in grad school, if she had finished her PhD defense earlier, there was a researcher who really wanted her to research with her at his lab in like somewhere in the north of Sweden. And it's just like, on one hand, living in Sweden would probably rule in terms of like social democracy and like, a government that functions. But on the other hand, the sun sets at like 2:30 p.m. in December there.
I don't know. I think I could get used to it. I just hate the cold. I don't mind the dark. I just fucking hate the cold.
I'm the opposite.
So.
I don't really mind the cold that much. I really hate the dark. I having lived in Alaska, I just got used to the cold, and like it sucks, but like you can kind of mitigate it. You know what I mean? As long as you sort of know what you're doing, there's certain things to like combat it. You just have to be prepared for it. It's annoying. It makes your life more annoying, but you can combat it. I actually suck worse in the heat in the sense that I used to make this joke in the Army, like you can build a fire to warm up, you can't really build an ice, and like I did remember doing machine gunnery at Fort Benning in August when it was like 107 a couple of days in a row, and we were sleeping out in the field, so there was no cooling anything, you know what I mean? And like when you're out doing either firing or being a range safety, you're in full kit, and it's like fucking sucks. Like it sucks ass. It's 100% humidity and 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Like there's no way to make that not suck.
I know. I don't know. I'm more worried about dying of hypothermia than I am of heat stroke. I don't know why. I have weird fears, which, as 4 years of podcasting, I'm sure has brought out for everybody.
Well, you know what though, Francis? There's a way in which you could combat those fears in a therapeutic setting by using a particular substance known as LSD. And it turns out the Marines have figured this out and are therapeutically treating themselves to a great extent.
Where do you... Okay, Nate, you and I are both squares. I know this. So, like, we're dad weed smokers. It's like, I smoke weed because
it helps me fall asleep and sleep deeper.
Right.
That's basically it. I don't really want to be high in the daytime. I don't even really like watching movies high or anything.
No.
Not even browsing the timeline. I like to get all my stuff done, maybe take a shower before bed and smoke some weed and then just like fall asleep like I'm sleeping on a fucking bed of clouds.
I like to, take a hit or two and then just kind of coast through the evening, relaxed, after a rough day. It's nice to just take one hit and then you're just like, all right, I'm okay. Everything's feeling fine. And then later you can do I'm the same way. I don't want to be out of my head. It's like having, getting off of work and having a beer. I'm just going to have one beer and I feel relaxed and I feel okay. I'm not going to have 7 because I'll wake up feeling shitty and I'll gain a bunch of weight and nobody wants that. So I don't know about drugs. I certainly don't know anybody that had LSD in the Army. Maybe it's just a Marine thing. I don't know where to get LSD, and also I don't know if I would trust LSD. Like, whose basement is that made?
I remember friends of mine doing acid in college, and I mean the obvious benefit of taking acid, I suppose, if you're in the military, is that it doesn't stay in your system very long. And despite what they say about testing, they don't actually test for it. I mean, they can test for it, but it's not easy to test for it. And so, like when they read you that safety brief before you do your urinalysis, that's not really true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they can't test for steroids. They can't test for acid. Not on that basic urine screen. They can. Basically, there's the urine screen, and then there's a I can't remember the medical term for it, but there's a much more like a spectrometry or something along those lines. Like they basically use like some kind of gas spectral analysis thing to do a much more in-depth test. But because those are expensive and require like man hours of work, what they do is they do a basic urine screen, and if you pop hot on that much higher threshold for detection, then they go in and do like the more in-depth one, which has a much lower threshold for detection. So like it's actually, they threaten soldiers, but they don't actually test for that shit unless they know what to test for, and they use like the specialty testing.
Yeah, well, I was a UA for a while, and the urinalysis administrator, and they can test for steroids, but they need twice as much urine. So a steroid test is a very specific test. It has to be 60 milliliters. It can't just be 30.
And they have to basically, there has to be suspicion for them to give you that test,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. So for steroids, there has to be a specific, we think that you're doing steroids and we need you to give us twice as much urine. And then there's like a rotating, they test for weed, they test for coke, and they test for heroin. And then they're like, we kind of rotate, every, of 4 tests, one will get tested for barbiturates, one will get tested for psilocybin, one will get tested. But you're right, like, that's not what really is happening here. It just
and also it's like my soldiers were huge fuck ups. Like they did every drug on the planet. I have never in 7 years in the Army had anyone test hot for mushrooms or LSD. Not once. So like maybe they do test, yeah. But
people get caught for smoking marijuana. That's really all that the Army is giving a shit
coke
about.
and if they
but coke's out of your system fast too, though.
But soldiers get caught for coke all the fucking. You're right. Yeah. It's out of your system. Like you do coke on a Thursday night on a 4-day, and if they piss test you on Tuesday morning, it won't be in your system. But if you're like my genius soldiers and you do coke on your way to PT because you don't think there's going to be a fucking urinalysis that morning, you will pop hot for it.
Is that okay? So wait a minute. Is that
my soldiers did so much cocaine. After I got out of the Army, I found out just how much they were doing, even more than the stuff we were detecting when they were getting hot or getting caught on piss
Unfortunately, all my drug knowledge is from like 80s Wall Street movies. So like, I just assume everybody does cocaine and just runs around and like is insane. But I guess you can just do blow and then go to do PT. Like,
I mean, it's just I haven't done cocaine, but like the extent to which I know people who have done it, and obviously like I work in media stuff in London, so I'm around people who do cocaine. Like British people love coke, like way more than Americans. Like to an extent, it's just completely mind blowing to me how much people do coke in this country. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people use coke because you can keep drinking. Like it sort of wakes you up while you're drinking. If you're wake up hungover, you can take coke, and it basically like reduces or eliminates hangover symptoms depending on like how hungover you are. Really? Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's sort of like the banker standard, isn't it? Like, do your work long ass hours, go out, drink late at night, do coke whilst drinking, and then wake up, 4 hours of sleep or whatever, fucking do coke to kill your hangover and wake up and go to work again. Like, which when you're in your 20s, like you can just do that and you're just indestructible. But eventually the drugs stop working and also you become addicted. So like, yeah, there's that problem. But for soldiers, man. Oh God, they were doing so much cocaine in Alaska, and I think one of the reasons why is because it's a port city, and there's a ton of like Hell's Angels in Alaska, and obviously like it makes sense to do weed or correction, it makes sense to do coke or ecstasy because they're out of your system. Ecstasy, if I remember correctly, will come up as a amphetamine on a piss test because like it'll be like the same as pissing hot for speed, but dude, like. Why would you smoke? The most benign drug, the one that's the coolest and chillest and doesn't really cause any problems, is the one that stays in your system the longest. And so if you're trying to do like risk management as Joe drug user, you know what I mean? Like, well, either you have a fake dick and a clean sample, you play your cards right with trying to avoid getting tested, like knowing when the tests are going to happen, or you take drugs that don't stay in your system. That's why Joe smokes spice. Do you think people would smoke fucking spice if weed was legal for soldiers? Spice is like smoking fucking pencil shavings. Like,
I'm gonna let you young soldiers in who are listening, and I was just like, how do I smoke weed while still in the Army? And the thing is, you become an NCO, and then you become the urinalysis administrator.
I actually had a soldier. No, don't get me wrong. There were a couple of soldiers in my unit who pissed hot, but the the test got thrown out on legal grounds because, I'm not joking, the urinalysis guy hadn't taken the samples to the lab straight away. He had like taken them he'd left them in his truck bed and like had forgotten about them on Friday night. I was like, oh fuck, they're closed. So they were in his truck bed, and then he left them outside and then took them back to the lab on Monday morning. But because he had broken the chain of custody, all of the results were thrown out. There was another situation in which the chain of custody was broken because a soldier had a seizure and the guy manning the table jumped up to help him, and because technically he wasn't with the samples the whole time, then those piss tests got thrown out. So a bunch of dudes who pissed hot for coke managed to not get charged with it.
Yeah, if you got a cool UA who you can slip like $50 to just be like, hey man, can you like surreptitiously just break the seal on mine while you're putting it in there just so it gets dumped? No, I'm not saying like that I would have done that. I'm just saying that if you've got a cool UA who you can slip $50 and you're worried about a piss test.
Or you can be one of my genius soldiers and you can be like, I'm just going to scoop up urine from the toilet because I know there's going to be leftover urine and no one's flushing the toilet because like I know that that's okay.
I'm going to take the chance that nobody else is pissed hot in here.
But if you're an even super genius and that's been your strategy for years and it's worked, but you forget that it's winter now and the toilets are constantly running in Alaska because if the water stays still, it'll freeze in the pipes. So that's set up during certain times of year to be like consistently kind of dribbling cold water out of the pipes into the toilet, and when you pull that water out, that urine out of the toilet, all of a sudden it's like 33 degrees Fahrenheit, and everyone knows you didn't just piss it out of your body because it's fucking freezing. So they reject your sample, and you have to piss, and whoops, you pissed hot for cocaine.
Yeah, when Snow Miser needs to go and do your urinalysis.
Exactly. Goddamn, I forgot about the year without Santa Claus or whatever. I'm Mr. Icicle. I'm Mr. Snow. God, that movie fucking rules.
I've got to piss in a cup so people don't think I did blow.
All right. Showing our age by talking about a claymation movie from the early 70s. So the Marines, it turns out, love acid. They love doing LSD. Maybe this explains why Marines are the way they are. I don't know. I feel there's other things there. But we have a story, and we're going to do a little reading series talking about the experience of guys in, I believe, 2nd Marine Division. And this is a story from Task and Purpose by Jared Keller. So I'm just going to start reading. All right. The headline is, Marine Corps to Grunts, please stop taking LSD. Off to a good start. The Marine Corps has a message for the more groovy-minded grunts in the ranks. Please, for the love of God, stop dropping acid. Several Marines and sailors assigned to the 2nd Marine Division at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina have tested positive for LSD use amid a sweep of recent tests for the drug, the service announced on Monday. According to a recent anti-drug PSA published in the Defense Visual Information Distribution System, DVIDS, that's what it stands for.
DVIDS, yep.
A number of recent incidents involving either Marines and sailors induced division leaders to carry out random LSD testing starting this summer. Before those incidents, Marine Corps officials would have required probable cause for search rather than relying on random screening, according to the service. So far, personnel have conducted nearly 4,000 tests since the start of the summer with several positives. We have a drug problem in the 2nd Marine Division, Major General Francis L. Donovan, commanding general, said in a statement. We are changing the way in which we test for illegal substances. Division officials did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The division's crackdown on LSD use in the rank comes months after the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, NCIS for short, issued a warning to sailors and Marines to avoid purchasing LSD in the dark corners of the internet. As Task and Purpose has previously reported, LSD is already an unofficial staple of virtually every corner of the U.S. military, including its especially sensitive nuclear enterprise. Indeed, dozens of sailors assigned to the nuclear reactor department aboard the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier were punished in connection to an LSD ring aboard the vessel in 2018. And last year, 14 airmen responsible for protecting the Pentagon's nuclear missile silos at F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming were disciplined for dropping acid between shifts.
Hell yes.
Fucking hell yeah. Jesus Christ, this rules. Oh my God.
Okay, first off, this last paragraph that you read, they were between shifts. All right, so it's like being mad somebody went and got a beer after they got
no
off
different
work.
than having a fucking beer, as long as you're like microdosing. Like, okay, that's the thing, right? It's just a question. Like, you can buy acid. Like, here's the thing. Drug dealers aren't trying to kill you. Obviously, like, they don't care if they do, if you're buying fucking fentanyl on the street. But the whole point is that, like, when you buy this stuff, it's not like someone's just putting rat poison on a thing. Like, if you've got acid and you've got a reputable dealer or somebody that you trust and you've bought shit from them before, like, you know what you're getting more or less. And also, like, there's just a certain level of, like, be responsible. Like, don't take, like, I know people who buy shit off the dark web or from dealers locally, and like, they'll come with instructions like, hey, you know, an eighth of the tab, like, you'll feel this, a quarter of the tab, you'll feel this, the whole tab, you will absolutely trip. You know what I mean? Like, and so that the only concern, literally the only concern that I have with this is, like, because it's not like regulated and standardized, it's not like, okay, blood alcohol content, you know, alcohol by volume, that kind of a thing. And I obviously don't really trust soldiers to not just trip balls and show up to work still tripping balls. But yeah, like, it is no different than having a fucking beer. It's absolutely not. It's just, if you could just make sure you knew what you were taking, and with that caveat from before that I don't think that the risk of, like, oh, they put mind control juice on it, you take it once, you'll be a werewolf, like the staple of fucking dare education. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's true, but obviously there's a question of, like, purity and how much folks are taking.
Well, and also we have to wonder, like, Nate, knowing what we know now about the military, would you ever in the Army accept LSD? Like, I don't want to take LSD while I'm you know, guarding the Pentagon's nuclear missiles and then suddenly wake up with a rifle in my head and having gunned down a president. You know, like, I don't want to Manchurian candidate myself.
Yeah, I don't want to get MKUltra by my chain of command.
Like, yeah, you get your buddy comes up, it's like, hey man, do you want to, you know, I got some acid, do you want to try some? It's like, oh, that's cool, I'm 22 and stupid, I've never done acid, let's do acid in between our shifts. And then all of a sudden you're, like, standing with, like, a revolver over the leader of some Micronesian country and just like, shit, what happened to the last 5 years of my life? It's like, LSD, man, not even once in the Army. I don't trust it. I wouldn't do it. I just couldn't. Like, I don't even like getting drunk in the Army, because then your Army buddies will fuck with you.
Yeah.
Like, if you do anything else, like, it's the only drug that is safe to do in the Army is to smoke weed, which also you'll pop hot and get kicked out for. So there's just really no way to get outside of your brain while serving without being concerned something terrible is going to happen to you.
And, like, in Canada, they have a whole thing with fucking, because weed is legal in Canada, and weed is legal for their military too. And the way it works is that you have to stop smoking. Like, you can't smoke within 8 hours of starting work, like whatever your first formation is. You can't smoke. I think, like, there's another one for, like, field training exercises. I think, like, you can't smoke within 14 days of a field training exercise. And pilots and people who are going to be on deployment, like combat deployment or some kind of live round situation, I think including live fires, you can't smoke within 28 days. But, like, other than that, you can fucking smoke weed in the Canadian military. And I bet you the Canadians have fewer problems with Canadian Joes fucking dropping acid. Just saying. Because here's the thing, right? Okay, drugs rule. Everyone must get out of their head. People want to relax. Acid can actually be very helpful for some people in therapeutic settings. However, one of the reasons why this is happening, and you and I both know this, is that it's almost impossible for them to test without, like, knowing in advance and doing the specialty tests they have to do for acid. So as a result, like, it's one of the safer highs you can get until now, you know, where, like, they're worried about it and they're cracking down. But if weed was legal, this wouldn't be happening.
That's how it always is. Like, if there's no reason to be scared of this. There's no reason to be, like, worried, like we said, any more than worrying about an alcoholic Joe. So you're just like ruining people's careers over this thing, which, like, the military used to just give out to people just to see, like, what does it do? And, like, we know it does. I think the problem that big Army or big Marine, big Navy comes up with this is that they don't have control over it. Yep. Like, it's easier. It's okay when I'm controlling you, when I'm controlling the dose, and when I'm observing you. It's very clinical. And so when the soldiers go out and run around and make daisy crowns and shit because they're all tripping balls, and it turns out when everybody trips balls, nobody wants to fight. Everybody just wants to hang out and fuck. You know, in a, you know, our perfect utopia, and then the military's like, no, none of that. We don't want any of that nonsense. So you just have a lot of cool drugs and a lot of cool things that people could do. And like the one thing that makes people violent, makes people like, beat their spouses and their children. The one thing that like you get 4 beers into you, and then suddenly you got MPs having to break up brawls and getting stabbed by other soldiers because you can't that's perfectly fine. We got that everywhere, but like it just.
Mm-hmm.
It's irritating.
I have to tell you that because my experience in Korea was such that, in a country where you can get alcohol for very, very cheap and you can stay out drinking all night long, every night of the week if you want to, like, it's so easy to drink. And for the equivalent of about $3, you can get big bottles of soju, which is, I think, like 20% alcohol. It's like 40 proof. It's like watery vodka. It's like a vodka on ice that's melted, but very low quality vodka. I just saw so much dumb shit happen with soldiers. Just so many people fucking their careers up. So many people causing like violence amongst each other, amongst civilians, Korean military, Korean police. Like just
talk to any MP. Like I have a group chat that I'm in, and there's some soldiers in there, or ex-soldiers, and one of them is an ex-MP who was in Korea, and just the stories he tells of just like getting stabbed and shit by other soldiers, having to break up fights, and just like day one, I hope you're ready to brawl, because that's all we do is we fight other soldiers who are drunk as shit.
Yeah,
and then we take them to jail. That's all MPs do, and you learn how to beat the shit out of drunk soldiers, and like in a way that sounds like it rules, but also in a way that sounds very depressing about the state of being in Korea. Like, and don't get me wrong, like Joe's gonna Joe. If you have $3 watery vodka that I can get and get trashed on, I mean, I am, I have my entire 20s was me being a raging alcoholic, and part of my 30s as well. So I get it. I understand that, but I don't know, man. It's like the Army in so many ways. Like there's so many things that we can look at in the Army that they do right, like especially logistically. But then like you have something like this, it's like there's an easy solution, but it's not easy, because the solution, which would be just make weed legal and like put in restrictions. Obviously, those the Canadian restrictions sound fine. Like I feel like people would be like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Like, yeah, if I'm a pilot, I should not be smoking weed. If I have to be, my PAO asked, like, yeah, Ada, I'll stop smoking weed tonight, and then I'll be at work tomorrow. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and everything.
You take your last toke at fucking 10:30 p.m. And
then go to bed.
That'd be great. You wake up for formation, rested as hell, man.
Bro, that's how I wake up now. Like I take a hit before going to bed, and I wake up.
Jesus, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is that, like, I don't think America is going to legalize weed federally anytime soon, because the incoming president.
But the Army wouldn't anyway, because the Army has this fucking stupid culture. Like the Army, it doesn't matter if weed is legalized federally. I fully believe that the Army would still say no drugs, because because it's easier to regulate a no. It's easier to say, there's a binary. It's a yes or a no. There's not a like, well, did you smoke in the last 12 days before we went out to this thing? And and in reality, we know that like those restrictions in Canada, in America, they wouldn't be necessarily fully followed. I'm sure they're not in Canada either, but also it's just like, look, don't be a fucking dumbass. Don't show up to the range stoned.
Sure, but it's like a line of duty thing, right? Because here's the thing. I mean, realistically speaking, it's very unlikely that weed will stay in your system for 28 days. And I mean, like, I know that we are taught a lot of wrong shit about drugs in terms of, I mean, I remember reading about this. There was a study not that long ago where they actually went through and did the high threshold, low threshold stuff that I was talking about earlier on people, and, to kind of assess whether the stories that you get told are true. And what they determined was that if you were a heavy smoker, which is to say you were smoking at least once, if not twice a day, for years. Like if you were the kind of person who basically was high from the moment 10 minutes after waking up until you went to sleep for 10 years, and you quit weed cold turkey, the absolute longest that it would be detectable in your urine after quitting cold turkey, under, like I said, that very, very low threshold for detection analysis, would be about 21 days. realistically speaking, most people, it'll be out of your system in 7 to 14 days. However, there's been so much misinformation kicked out there that they were citing some examples of people trying to argue in court that weed stays in your system so long that someone will permanently test hot for weed. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, my client didn't smoke weed. It's just that weed stays in your system so long. Here's the science that says this. Like, I think they've built up so much resin in their blood that they're just going to piss hot for weed forever. And judges are like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, there's that much fucking bullshit. But the fact being here is that if you say 28 days, you're actually, the point behind that is giving people kind of a grace period in a way, because there's absolutely no way that you're going to piss hot for weed after 28 days. You're just not. And so if you get in an accident or something like that, you know, there's a line of duty investigation. You will not test positive for weed, you know. And if you do, then clearly you smoked. It wasn't that you smoked 27 days ago. It was you smoked like a week ago. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And and I'm sure they're not, you know, it's like when you get a job in a warehouse and it's like, essentially, yes, it's a drug free. Like, you're not, they can drug test you, but you don't get drug tested until there's an accident. And then they're like, well,
Exactly.
can we blame the fact that you smoked weed a week ago on, you know, why this is happening? So you had that same thing, you know, it would be very easy to do that for the military. It's just like, look, if there's an accident, one of the first things we're going to do, which you should be doing anyway, you know, with fucking soldiers. Like, if two tanks run into each other, the first thing I'm going to do is breathalyze everybody involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, come on now. Like, you know, and that's fine. Two tanks run into each other. Everybody's fine. Everybody breathalyze and pee into a cup real quick, because, you know, this is in my military utopia of where drugs are perfectly fine, but, you know, 2 weeks before going to the field doing live fire. And, you know, I will say also, another note about when I was a UA, there is an acceptable amount of marijuana in your system. Like, there's a threshold where it's like, okay, you have this amount in there, but it's not enough to say that you've been stoned in the last like 24 hours. It's enough to say, like, maybe you were stoned a while ago, or maybe you were at a concert, maybe you were at a fucking Bob Dylan concert and a joint was passed in front of you and you sniffed it a bit. You know, there is an acceptable ratio of drugs in the system. So it's not all bad. Like, honestly, if you get caught smoking weed in the Army, you're a fucking idiot. But also, it shouldn't be illegal. It's dumb and stupid that it is.
Well, the thing that gets me about it is that, to be perfectly honest with you, is that I think that no matter what happens, like, you're right, the military is resistant to change. And there are so many people in senior positions in the military who believe that, you know, not only is weed a gateway drug, but like it melts your brain and turns you into, you know, an iguana, much like the Cheech and Chong movie, Nice Dreams, I believe it was. I can't remember which one it was. There is one in which maybe it was
still trying to date us, huh?
It might be still smoking. It might be Nice Dreams, but there is a Cheech and Chong movie in which they have this weed that turns you into an iguana. Like
that sounds like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas to me.
Yeah.
The lounge lizard scene. Although Cheech and Chong are probably a lot nicer and a lot less hellish with it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Cheech and Chong movies is that, like, they're that old-fashioned kind of movie style where it's like it's already kind of dated and slow and sort of. Remember when we watched Buckaroo Banzai and we're like, what the fuck does this have to do with the next thing? Like, none of this makes any sense in one series of events. Like, it's just one random fucking thing thrown together, and then, like, they're like, oh, we thought this was a cool idea for a scene. It has no relevance to the plot. Basically, it's like, imagine that, but everyone's on weed. And you can imagine how nonsensical their films get. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, like, there's too many senior people in the military who believe that this has to be combated at all costs. And the way that the U.S. system works, obviously, in terms of rules and things, I mean, I just feel as though even if there was federal legalization, you probably wouldn't get to the point where the military tolerated it right out the bat until there were court cases. Like, that's how it would have to happen. People would have to challenge it in court, and it would have to win in court, because otherwise, I feel as though the military is just going to make a blanket statement and say, no, we can't, unless, you know, someone from DOD realizes that, like, it's a really fucking stupid thing to be up people's asses about. It really is.
The Army, but that's what the Army does. Like, as soon as anything comes out that might make you feel good, Like the Army is just like, no, you can't do that. Like CBD, there's no way to detect CBD in your system. CBD is a it's, and even the CBD that you buy over the counter has like minute traces of THC in it, and the Army is just like, look, it's got THC in it, so we're going to tell you no, that you can't do it, but just understand it's got very low amounts of THC. Like they do that like pussyfooting around where they're like, technically we can't tell you that it's okay, but if you're guzzling THC or if you're guzzling CBD out of the bottle, you're probably still going to be perfectly fine. And the same with kratom, where it's a like essentially, yes, it is illegal in the Army, but also the Army understands that it can't really do anything. But they have to tell you no. They have to say no, you can't do that. And if we catch you with it, you're going to be punished. Even though kratom is like great for like it's a replacement for opiates. It's like a low level opiate feeling. Even though marijuana is great for people who have problems sleeping or people who have eating disorders or anything. Even though ecstasy is great for people with PTSD, like we know all these things. We know all of these things. And what do? You can go buy a fucking 12-pack of Busch Light, and that's it. That's it. And you can go to therapy. And I'm not trying to mock therapy, but also at the same time, sometimes you just need to fucking hit a one-hitter at the end of the day.
Therapy is great, and I strongly encourage it. But I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes getting a good night's sleep is the thing you need. And you might have a therapy session. I mean, when I was in the Army and I was trying to get therapy, I was having a therapist session like once every 6 weeks, and that was good. You know what I mean? That was fucking good. Like, sometimes you just need shit to help you relax, and like alcohol isn't good for it. Weed is better. Like, it may be okay. Maybe you're only allowed to take THC pills or something, but fuck's sake, man, like, don't be this ridiculous. But you know what, Francis? I do want to finish. There's the last three paragraphs of this story. Let's finish this. So, what's the solution to the striking resurgence of acid use within the ranks? At least one Marine officer made the argument that if you can't beat them, join them, at least in terms of microdosing for matters of intelligence analysis. I want to read that article in a fucking bonus episode reading series because fuck it, dude, I'm all about it. At the moment, it looks like at least some members of the 2nd Marine Division took that advice a bit too literally, and now they're paying the price. We are committed to identifying violators of our ethos, Donovan said in a statement. The vast majority of the Marines within the 2nd Marine Division routinely uphold our core values, and they deserve to know that the Marines to their left and right are doing the same. You know what? Yeah, but fuck that, man. God, yes, you're right. They're upholding your values by just getting balls drunk and beating their kids on 4-day weekends and then showing up hungover as shit, but technically sober on Tuesday morning.
There's so many things. There are just so many more problems that the military has beyond this, like Task and Purpose and Army Times and all the places that report on the military. Like every time you open up their main page, and this is I'm not complaining about them reporting on this, but every time you open up the main page, there's going to be something about a female soldier getting murdered or something happening, people failing their troops in ways that affect multiple people in forever. Like people die, people get hurt or raped or killed, and this is what y'all are fucking concerned about. Like, Jesus Christ, as long as your Marines are doing LSD and staying in their rooms and not fucking around and showing up to work on time, God, go work on something else. Go concern yourselves elsewhere. And it's just like, this is an easy solution, right? It's like we just make everybody pee in a cup, and if you've got LSD in your pee, then we waggle a finger at you and we discipline you and we kick you out, or we take away benefits or something along those lines. We have some way of punishing you. But like when it comes to, hey, this woman reported a harasser 5 times to her chain of command, and then the harasser murdered her
and fucking like buried her in concrete somewhere, like,
right. And then it's just like, well, what's the conversation that we need to have here? And yeah, you do need to focus on that. You need to take everybody away from the LSD Marine concerns here and put it on the our Marines get murdered by other Marines concern here. There's just, and I know you can do 2 things at once, but also one of those things just really doesn't need to be done.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me about it more than anything else is just that I think that people who are actually on the line know this. I think people who are actually on the line, if they aren't like super indoctrinated into the kind of mentality that like, weed is poison or whatever. I think they're aware of the fact that like the soldiers, if you have a soldier who's pissed hot for weed, like maybe he's a fuck up, but maybe not. Maybe he's also just like not a big deal. But that on an average weekend, you are going to have at least one soldier get in trouble for alcohol. And the more combat arms you are, like the closer to like, basically on a spectrum of being closer to Delta Force, the closer you are, the more likely it's going to be some kind of spectacularly dumb alcohol related incident. And I just think about all of the people I know who got their careers ruined because of alcohol, whether it was getting caught drinking in the barracks underage, getting randomly breathalyzed underage, getting, hit up by the fucking MPs because they were drunk like on post, like at the bowling alley underage, showing up to PT and they're just doing breathalyzers randomly and, pissing hot for that or popping hot for that and getting UCMJ for it. Drink drive. Man, I'm fucking British now. Like
drink driving.
What? Francis, I'm literally losing my mind. We can leave this in. We should say drunk driving in America, right?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
We say Merry Christmas instead of Happy Christmas too.
Drunk driving. God, fuck! It's only 2 years. I haven't even been here 3 years. How the fuck did I forget that? Anyway,
do you drink your soda out of an aluminum can too?
No, it's an aluminum tin. Thank you. We get tins with the lads in the park. No, I mean I don't drink. I like barely drink at all anymore. Like, and that's the thing too about alcohol is that I like some alcohol. I really do. But it's just more like I'm at the point now where I am in a so much better physical and mental health space now because I drink periodically when there's like an occasion for it. I mean, okay, confessing to a lib moment, obviously I don't care. I mean, I don't like Biden, but I was obviously very happy that Trump lost. So when it was announced that Trump did actually lose, then I was like, fuck it, let's have some wine. And we had some wine. I don't care. That's a small amount. Lib moment, all right, make the stupid collage of me with fucking Mueller as like a patron saint and goddamn Elizabeth Warren t-shirts. You know what?
It's okay. You don't have to celebrate Biden winning. You just have to celebrate Trump
losing. Exactly. That's the point. I hate Joe Biden. I wanted anybody but Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. Anybody but Joe Biden.
I would have taken Pete Buttigieg over
I would have fucking taken Pete Buttigieg. I absolutely would. Anyone but Biden. And it was fucking Biden. And what are they doing? Complete utter brain dump. Like, let's pretend everything's okay. Let's pretend this never happened. Like, just everything's going to be okay. Like your student loans will only go up by 2% per year and that's progress. And Nancy Pelosi will lecture you on why we're capitalists and that's just that, doing a video with her like $30,000 fridge or whatever the fuck, like they're going to pretend that everything is fine and nothing happened and we're going to learn nothing and it's going to continue to get worse. So like anybody but Biden. But of course, yeah, like celebrate it a little. But also here's the point, right? I really like having a glass of wine or a beer or a mixed drink every now and again. But my God, dude, switching from like my relaxation to weed instead of alcohol, I can't even begin to describe how much of an improvement that's been. And it's not for everyone. Some people really just don't like weed, can't handle it, like it's not for them. And that's okay. Like, that's okay too. But I just feel like when I think about the military and I think about drugs, if my soldiers were microdosing LSD and smoking weed and like showing up to formation on time and just like well rested and slightly more self-actualized, that would fucking rule. Now, if they were taking too much acid and freaking out and being like, I've been turned into a bear or something like that, that's a problem.
Right. Or throwing themselves out of the barracks windows or whatever, believing that they can fly or whatever Dare taught us that you do
exactly.
on LSD.
I mean, I was thinking more of SLC Punk where Devin Sawa's character is running from the cops.
Nate,
remember that scene?
Can you please reference a movie made in the last 20 years so we stop
sounding so goddamn old? It was made in the last 20 years. It was made in the last 20 years, goddammit. I think it was made in 2000 or 2001. It was made in the last 20 years. You know what movie I'm talking about?
1998, Nate.
Ah, fucking Christ.
You're
really?
old. It's okay. We're both old. But come on.
Devin Sawa's character runs from the cops while he's selling acid, but he runs through fucking sprinklers.
Yes, and the acid.
So then he freaks out and he thinks that like he's surrounded by an ocean of blood. Like that's more of my Dare drug abuse resistance education fucking like notion of what acid does to you. Also, like, let's be honest. I don't think it's a very good idea for soldiers to be doing heroin and cocaine. I think that, I think they should be decriminalized the way that Oregon's done. I think that's great. I don't think that, I don't necessarily think given the choice, as much as I hate alcohol, I think I would rather my soldiers be on alcohol than on coke. I would certainly rather my soldiers be on alcohol than on heroin, which is not to say that you can't use heroin safely, because you can. but most people don't and can't.
No, there are certainly like opiates are, and that's the thing. What this comes down to, and we'll wrap this up. But what this comes down to is how much can you trust Joe to not abuse something? And if Joe's gonna abuse something, like if Joe abuses weed, what's that gonna do other than make him couch lock and watch Netflix until 2:00 in the morning?
You have to give him a counseling statement to stop buying fucking blacklight posters of druids.
He's gained too much weight because all Joe eats is Doritos. Like, that's fine. You can correct that. But Joe, you can continue to eat Doritos, but you just need to do like a 4-mile run in the morning, which, like, when I go for a run, sometimes I've noticed that if I just hit the vape once, that really helps all the creaks and crackles that happen when I run 3 miles not be that big of a deal. It's really nice. You can find like little ways that medicinally it helps you. I could imagine now, like if I was still in the Army, holy shit, I'm 37 years old. If you put me on a deployment now, I think it would be cruel to not give me weed. To just to sleep on a cot for a year and ugh.
I have all the reason in the world to be a bitter hater about this because I turned down weed so many times in Afghanistan, both like from soldiers I knew who had it and Afghans who had, like, literally one of the soldiers I worked with at the compound where there's me and like 6 Joes and no fucking anyone from the command post. Like, flagpole was far away. Dude, so I had an Afghan soldier whip out like a pancake of hash from his breast pocket. He's like, yo, I keep my ID in this breast pocket and I keep this in the other one. And I was just like, God, I would love to smoke that. Fucking God, just roll it up in a cigarette and smoke that. Holy fuck, that'd be amazing. And like, there was a weed plant growing outside one of the buildings on the base we lived on. Like,
you call it weed for a reason, man. It grows everywhere.
Like, and I didn't do it. And you know what? Cool, but soldiers should be allowed to smoke weed. Like, I'm not so much of a hater about the fact that I turned it down to be like, warrior ethos, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's better. Soldiers are going to fuck around. I would rather my soldiers fuck around too much with weed than with alcohol. I would honestly rather my soldiers fuck around doing a little microdosing here and there, taking acid, than with alcohol.
Probably make them more interesting. Like, just, take a half a tab of acid and just go for a walk around the post and tell me how you feel afterwards.
I mean, you'd definitely be a hell of a lot better at being in the field once you've communed with the trees. I mean, like, let's be honest here. But it's just one of those things where I think that the military's hardcore prohibition attitude and also completely bipolar attitude to alcohol winds up creating a lot of really, really unhealthy habits and probably causes more harm than good. And so this story is hilarious. But it's also further evidence that part of depacifying your brain is getting rid of the idea that all drugs are bad except for alcohol, which is extremely good and American. You know what I mean? To me, if you could just, I can't drink anymore like the way I used to without feeling like shit for days on end. Like maybe almost 2 years ago, I went to a friend's going away party and there just wasn't a lot of food there and I hadn't eaten before and I wound up drinking a lot of champagne. And then also my friend's mom made a Manhattan that was good as hell, but was really strong. I was hungover for like 6 days. So I can't drink anymore. Weed fucking rules. The worst example of me having a weed hangover is like, I forgot that I put the coffee in the coffee maker and I was grinding more coffee thinking that I needed coffee for the coffee maker, but it was already ready. Like, that's it. No headache, no illness, no nothing. It's great. It rules. And I get it. It's not for everyone. But Jesus Christ, like, let's be honest about what is an actual risk and what isn't.
All right. Well, so this week for the bonus episode, Joe, Shocks, and I we have Carrie discuss Rudy Giuliani with us, the downfall of Rudy Giuliani, and also just the like extreme lawyer brain, like, and how just because somebody's a lawyer doesn't mean that they're smart. In fact, you probably should just work off of the assumption that they're not until they prove you otherwise. So please enjoy.
So that was kind of essentially Giuliani's role. He was just kind of out in the nebulous world of just kind of like, taking like assholes out for golf and like, being that glad hander to like, help bring clients in the door for like a law firm. That was essentially what he did. And of course, ever since 2016 and Donald Trump's election, he's attached himself like a sucker fish to, Donald Trump, which if you remember the fact that, Trump allegedly has had significant mob connections during the course of his dealings in Atlantic City and elsewhere, and B, that Giuliani, made his name in taking out the mafia. I mean, there might be some interesting conclusions to draw there, but I mean, I'm not gonna.
Did he take out the mafia, or did he just move it?
Right. So blowing past that for a second, in the interest of not libeling anybody. So all of this is really, he's been around for a while. I can barely remember like the last 3 months, much less the last 4 years most of the time. I mean, all of us, our brains are fucking poisoned. Do either of you have a prior moment of your favorite like Giuliani moment of the last of the Trump administration?
Jesus. I'm trying to think of things like before like this whole Nero playing the fiddle while Rome burns moment that we're having now, but I don't know. I can't remember anything. I know he's been there. I know he's been embarrassing.
So what if
I know he's been absolutely insane.
What if I told you that sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, I think my favorite thing is what's come to light is that he butt dials journalists all the time.
Yep.
And because it's incredible to me because everybody makes fun of me because I'm like a bit of a technology boomer and yeah, I get it, but I'm not a tech, my job isn't like a tech security guy, which is what
right.
His job is. And he seems to butt dial journalists so often that at least a dozen fucking people have accounts of it happening to them.
It's not even possible with phones these days. He's managing to do this, and it's I partially believe that it's kind of like Lyndon B. Johnson doing the where he would record everything that he was saying, and he was constantly talking about how big his dick
he called
was.
It jumbo.
Except Giuliani's doing that, and it's super embarrassing because he's just an embarrassing human being.
I love that I just point out that I don't know every little dumb bit of history, but I also know what Lyndon B. Johnson called his dick. So, yep.
Which
jumbo.
is
he called it jumbo. Yeah,
jumbo. He had a big dick,
yep.
No lie.
He fucked.
Well, and so I'm looking here that apparently, shortly after he was appointed as the head of the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, or at least he was an informal advisor to the agency. In the weeks following his appointment, he was forced to consult an Apple Store Genius Bar when he was locked out of his iPhone because he had forgotten his passcode and entered the wrong one 10 times, locking the phone. Other real highlights. He was also the one who made public that he had Trump had supposedly reimbursed Michael Cohen for the $130,000 that Cohen had paid to adult film actress Stormy Daniels for agreement not to talk.
Right. He was involved in the whole Stormy Daniels thing. I forgot about that.
And
you know what? To his credit, he made it go away. We don't talk about it anymore.
How did he make
Trump,
that go away?
So
I think
there something else insane and stupid happened.
Yeah.
It was what has the last 4 years been other than if somebody sat down and explained and went through every week of the last 4 years, I would remember maybe about 5% of it and be re-horrified by all of it again. God, we just let that happen, huh? The whole story. Remember, when we were all making jokes about Trump's dick looking like Toad the Mushroom from Mario? Yeah, you remember now. We're unlocking some fucking keys inside of all your brains with this nonsense.
And so, I mean,
thanks,
anyway,
I hate it.
So some other highlights. He was also the one who, he was also the ones to promote the Spygate conspiracy back in 2018, which was when Trump accused the Democrats of Obama of inserting spies into his 2016 campaign. He's previously acted as Trump's lawyer, saying that Trump shouldn't testify in the special counsel investigation because his recollection keeps changing. I think he had some role.
I too have had a fucking Friday night like that.
Yeah, he said that he was a big proponent of the president not being able to be indicted under while sitting as a president. He was involved with the various different machinations involving Michael Flynn. He's been on the wings of a lot of these different things, but really in the kind of the end game that we've just all sorts of shit. He just looking at it, He urged Trump to extradite Gulen to Turkey. He previously lobbied on behalf of the MEK, trying to get them off of the terrorist watch list.
Oh my God.
He
Wait, who's the MEK?
they're the weird, like kind of vaguely cultish Iranian dissident group that.
Oh, the People's Mujahideen of Iran is what.
Yeah, I think so.
Wikipedia tells me.
Yeah.
Why would he get that
They
taken
fought
off
against
of the
Saddam during, or they fought against Iran during the Iran-Iraq war.
Yeah. So he's done a wide. He's kind of always been on the edges of things, kind of in the last like 4 years. But really, his time to shine has been since about halfway through this like fucking never-ending year. So most people will recall, because if you don't remember any of the rest of it because your brain's melted, you'll probably remember Giuliani from his role in the all the weird allegations that have come out about Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
So, he was flying back and forth for a while to try to get meet with the Ukrainian officials this is back in 2019, trying to get Ukrainian officials to investigate Hunter Biden. He had his two weird henchmen, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, who, there was some question as to whether or not they were, properly liaisoning with the Ukrainian authorities. Both of them were arrested for campaign finance violations while on a one-way flight to Frankfurt.
So imagine how dumb the people that Rudy Giuliani hire are. Like, just for a second.
Well, so Giuliani himself was paid $500,000 to consult for Lev Parnas' company named. Does anyone remember this?
I don't know.
I remember Lev. I remember that whole thing.
Yeah. Fraud Guarantee. That was the name of the fucking company.
Perfect.
More recent in 2020, his role has been I actually, in late breaking news, I just saw that the owner of the computer repair shop where Hunter Biden supposedly brought his laptops, which begat that whole weird conspiracy theory.
My family fell so hard for that. I was watching like a sister that I have on, I think it was Snapchat, go on this long diatribe about how Hunter Biden had child porn on his laptop.
Well, so fun fact, that guy just closed his shop and fled.
Well, yeah. I mean, how couldn't he at that point? Like, he's never going to get business again.
We're never going to talk about that again. These things will never be brought up again. Like this weird, insane Hunter Biden thing. It's like, it's gone. That didn't work. All right, we're just going to move on to the next
Nobody
thing.
cares about Hunter Biden. Except apparently Joe Biden, which is like, I fucking hate Joe Biden. But like,
because he loves his son so
like the only thing that came out, the only thing that this entire episode revealed is that like conservatives are all just driven by daddy issues.
Well,
they really are. Joe, for all of Joe Biden's faults, he loves his sons.
Yeah.
And because he's lost some of them, and he doesn't want to lose even the fuck up ones. He doesn't want to lose them, and it's so like it's that moment of heartening, and like even conservatives are like, huh, look at this queer
loves his son, the fucking pussy, bitch ass motherfucker loving his kids.
Well, I mean, bitch ass motherfucker loving his kids. Yeah,
fellas, is it gay to love your son?
I mean, I just hope you know, Joe, that by saying that no one cares about this, you've laid into heaven at least 2 to 3 years of Senate committee hearings about Hunter Biden.
That's all right. I'm probably like the Department of State just successfully argued in court they should be able to kill American citizens without judicial review. So I only got like a couple weeks left.
All right, everybody, as always, thank you for listening. You can follow me at Army Strang, follow Nate at In These Deserts, follow the podcast at Hell of a Way. If you are not on the Patreon yet, please, if you can, it's always appreciated, and you get all of that bonus content, bonus episodes once a week. Got a lot of good stuff coming up in December. I have some good things planned, bringing a few people back. We're going to do some holiday planning, and this week I'm we're just going to be recording like a bull session between me and Carrie and Joe. We need to do another one with the four of us. I promise not to write a shitty script this time.
Well, that was a lot of fun, so I look forward to doing it again. And just thank you again for listening. Thank you again for being patrons if you are. If not, hopefully we've induced you to consider it. And we will talk to you next week.